Fnatic versus Schalke, no fear. And the big question around Fnatic was how they would do without Rekkles. And so far, the start of the season is a bit of a bad dream compared to the end of the 2020 season in the LEC for Fnatic. 0-2 start, and they are in fact the only team yet to pick up a win. And for the Fnatic faithful, I can imagine that is just not a good time. I have seen from the side of the organization, it's pretty calm, cool, and collected. There's a couple of memes saying, how you doing, son? Are you winning, son? They're just saying, well, no, we're just working on our team synergy and we're working it out. That's good for the outward perspective. But how do we think it's going in the inwards perspective with the pressure that's on the shoulders of these players?
I hope it's the same inwards as they show to the outside, because I wouldn't blame any of the players or Yamato Cannon for feeling a ton of pressure at the moment. Like, obviously for Upset, he's replacing Rekkles. That's already a big thing. And then the first thing that happens is you lose 2 games. Whenever you play for Fnatic, it doesn't matter where they are in the standings. It doesn't matter which players are on the team. Every fan expects them to win and fight towards the top. That's not happening at the moment. I hope they don't start going in towards too many short-term solutions. And they're still trying to keep the big picture in mind, because it's a long season. It's only week 1.
What do you mean with that, short-term solutions, in terms of what we've seen from Fnatic so far? Do you mean in terms of compositions or the way they approach the next games, or what do you mean?
I mean, it can be something like if the only thing that's worked for them in practice, let's say that was like playing only through bot side super heavily, so that's all they start doing every single game just to try to start picking up some wins, and then they don't actually develop anything else as a team. That's something bottom teams tend to do when they start panicking halfway through and they want to try and make playoffs. It's not necessarily the best in a week 1 scenario. They have 5 great players. They should be able to play through every single lane eventually, and I think that's what they will be working towards. So yeah, that's what I mean with like, don't necessarily just go
don't
all
drop everything because you've lost 2 games.
Yeah, don't drop my chair, apparently. It just broke
I'm
as
doing
well.
the same. These chairs are crazy.
The other thing I will add on is that I do think the outward-facing communication from Fnatic, it's not surprising. This is an organization with a very long and rich history, with many, many, many ups and downs. And as you've heard several times throughout the course of the broadcast, Fnatic as a team and as an organization don't tend to start splits particularly strong. 50% of their starts for the last 6 splits have been a negative win-loss ratio, yet they've still gone on to fix things. Earlier today, we talked about the chances of making playoffs. It is a long split. There are 18 games to play. I'm not expecting them to pop off quickly, but the caliber of players, I do think they can bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at the Super Week, though, you do want to get 1 win on the board at least, and this would be a good one to start.
It's a lot nicer to win than lose.
That is true. Thank you for that, Deficio. Wow, such good insight. I'm so glad
Next
you're here.
level
Next level
analysis.
But, you know, when you look at the caliber of players that are on this team, these are guys that like to win, and they are used to win, right? Most of them throughout their entire careers, actually. Nisqy coming over for C9, where he was extremely successful as well. So the big question is, what can they put into the Schalke Fear match? This is very winnable. Schalke has looked shaky at best.
I mean, so what we've seen so far for pretty much all the teams, except when you're playing at least Rogue, maybe G2, is these matches are very winnable. I think drafting for Fnatic right here, you can go for a fairly easy teamfight comp.
Don't give away Pantheon.
I think,
don't
yeah,
give away
you don't have to give the same comps
Don't make the
yesterday.
same mistakes.
I still think Fnatic will be favorites here to win this game. Easy to execute comp, you should be fine.
All right, let's see what happens. A win here would be a huge spark of energy for both teams as they look to end the opening week on a high note.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. I'm Drakos, joined now on the caster desk by Caedrel for the last 2 games of the day. Fnatic versus Schalke, certainly a very exciting game, and it most certainly would be even if it wasn't a chance for Fnatic to go 0-3 in week 1, but that would be big drama. And I'd be curious to see if it's going to happen. Caedrel, you heard from the desk, Fnatic still kind of favored on this one after what you've seen over the last 2 days. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, they still have like three really good players that we know are always going to show up in the top jungle and support. So if they play well, I think their carries can just thrive off of it, right? They're the playmakers. The carries that tend to just sit back and get the resource and then carry later in the game. So I need them to see them be a bit more calculated in how they take their fights.
And just like VoD says, do the thing.
The music thing. Lovely.
Caedrel, I think the best part of that is like the emotional whiplash of that building into the very chill section of our show that is picks and bans. It's like in 300, if like Leonidas threw the spear at Xerxes, rather than like clipping him and it being like gods could bleed, he just like whiffed. That's what the emotional
anticlimactic. He's like, well, now what?
Here we go. They're gonna select their champions before they fight. All right, there you go. And already Camille and Pantheon taken off the board. Olaf, Talia as well. We're not gonna get to see a repeat of what Razork did in the previous game, and for good reasons. Olaf very strong on the current patch. Thresh also banned away.
Yeah, it gives a few OPs open still. The TF, Kai'Sa. We're looking at things like the Nidalee still open, Renekton. These are the OPs that are kind of sitting up and available. The Thresh ban tells me that I think Schalke won't go for the Aphelios Thresh they did beforehand, which is the best combo in the bot lane for Aphelios. So interested to see how this pans out, but I like the ban so far. The Renekton ban does come in, so Nidalee does drop a little bit in prio, so now we're looking at things like the Kai'Sa.
See if that's what they want to prioritize here, of course, for Upset. We've seen the Kai'Sa game, we've seen the Aphelios game. He picked it up even without the Thresh, and while it didn't go too poorly, obviously the Fnatic playstyle that we've seen in these first two games has been very, very scrappy, and a lot of those scraps not always well advised. But I do love to see this TF locked in as a first pick. I think that in this week one, when teams are not as coordinated, when they are not put together, TF is even stronger than he normally would be because of all the opportunities he opens up.
Yeah, definitely. And now Schalke should go for the Kai'Sa 100%. I think TF Kai'Sa were the only real OPs open. You have junglers, you have Nidalee, Lillia still open, so I think the jungle trade's not too much of a problem. We've seen early rotation Gragases as well, so I wouldn't be surprised something like that come out. But the Kai'Sa Lillia is going to come in, so now does Fnatic want to go for something like the Gragas, try to flex it up? They want to try and get the strongest jungle matchup for them. I'm looking at things like Nidalee perhaps, which we've seen earlier in the day works well with TF. You have early push mid, you have like this roaming setup with TF, getting the stun cards with the ult. It just allows Nidalee to hit the space quite easily, so Camille and Renekton being down just kind of makes you wonder, do we see Aatrox, do we see Gnar, do we see Gragas?
What other options are there? The Grave's now going to come in for Selfmade, obviously with an AP mid laner. Good to have that AD damage in the jungle. Now paired with the Sett as well. Of course, important to remember that Bwipo has never shied away from playing Sett in the top lane when necessary, but for the most part, we do expect this champion to go into the bot lane as a support. Not nearly as strong as he was in patches past, but still a very solid engage option on the bottom lane.
Yeah, and we've seen traditionally the counter to the TF was the Sylas, but we're actually going to see the Lucian, which I'm a big fan of. I think TF Graves is a really strong 2v2. I think things like Akali is kind of out of the question when you have TF Graves in the enemy team. Sylas could somewhat work, but I think the Lucian is one of the strongest picks into TF. You can get early push prio, you win 1v1, so it's really hard for TF to step up, especially if you're playing with things like the Cleanse or Ignite, these combat summoners. Just makes it a lot harder for TF to get the push and actually be able to be active on the map without actually losing plates in mid when he does ult towards the bot side, but expect with TP and Spellbook he should be fine in the lane phase. Should still be able to go somewhat even, but like I said, when he ults to the side lanes or he does try to roam, the Lucian can definitely punish that lane.
Absolutely can, and really just need to keep our eye on that mid lane in the early game to see if that's followed up on, if they are able to shut the TF down completely just in the context of this 1v1, or if it's going to take a little bit of support from the jungle as well. But the Xayah going to be banned away, limiting some of the options that Upset has available. We saw Kai'Sa opt to play the Xayah against Upset previously this week. It looked like an okay matchup. I think Kai'Sa clearly above Xayah on the tier list, but still all around a pretty solid AD carry. And the final ban here is going to be the Gragas. Makes a lot of sense. Gragas feels like the best possible tank pick in the meta right now.
Yeah, it's a bit of a... They banned away the Alistar, so I think Schalke might have thought that they want to flex the Sett and go for like a Gragas flex as well, because they're a bit scared of that matchup. So taking away the Gragas, lots of bans across the board, and I'm just curious to see what Neon's going to go for AD here. He's got the Kai'Sa, and... I mean Upset, sorry. What's Upset going to go for AD here? He's got the Kai'Sa, Lucian's been picked away. Not a huge difference really, but I think the Xayah ban kind of comes in as well, which means Sett can't get flexed and they can't pick the Rakan. The Galio is good engage, so what does Upset want to go for here? We've seen MF, we've seen things like the Kalista as well, which has worked really well with the Sett. We saw Rogue run that with a roaming mid. It could be quite powerful for the side of Fnatic.
Very much could be. I like the Galio lock in here though from the side of Schalke. Gives them some opportunities to respond to what TF can bring. And if, frankly, if Fnatic don't have any more magic damage in their team composition, TF really going to struggle to get through that Galio shield on his own, and it's going to nullify a lot of the impact that he brings in the mid to late game fights. Of course, it's support, so itemization is going to be pretty limited, but that is going to be the Samira. All right, Caedrel, Samira. We've seen the highlight clips, Captain Flowers, blah, 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 Garage, Toolkit, whatever, but talk to me about what you actually think about this champion.
It feels like this champion has its pop-off moments, but sometimes when I see this champion ahead, it just doesn't look like it's as useful as you'd expect, right? You think it's fed, doesn't do too much in fights, but I think that in the right hands, in the right game state, I think this champ can pop off in fights, and especially against the composition of Schalke, which has a lot of squishies on it. If Samira can get in the backline really quick with her dashes and ult, with an Ornn ult behind her, then she's definitely doing a lot of damage. But that's a Jax last pick into the Ornn. So BrokenBlade being BrokenBlade, going for his side laners, going for split pushing, scaling on the side lane. And I think Schalke's comp is a little bit all over the place when you first look at it, but you have Prio mid, you have a Galio ult for Jax on a side lane, and you have Kai'Sa Lillia just for the team fights, basically. So it's a bit mix and match, the Schalke comp. I'm not a huge fan compared to the side of Fnatic, who have the globals to shut down the split push, and they have really hard engage to shut down the Kai'Sa in mid. So two somewhat different playstyles here, but you can see Schalke's win condition is this Jax.
And a lot of pressure then again on BrokenBlade, but as you said, this is what we know him for. This is the kind of player that he is. Time to see if he can make good on that commitment by locking in this Jax here. Build a big enough advantage, snowball that, and be the beefy side laner that Schalke need him to be on the opposite side. Fnatic hoping that they can play a little bit more of a map game as we get ready for Fnatic versus Schalke No Fear. Game has begun.
Yep.
Kia, movement that inspires. Thank you, Kia. That was my segue out of whatever that singing was that hopefully most people didn't notice. You'll get a chance to vote for your MVP at LEC after this game. It'll be between 3 choices. Hard to know who's going to come out on top, but you have to imagine if Schalke wins, the BrokenBlade will play a big part of it. That said, early on in the game, might not be the most explosive matchup. Caedrel, you're the jungler. Let's talk about jungle. I think when I see these champions in solo queue, I'm like, they're going to farm. I'm probably not going to see them until, you know, I'm overextending horribly. They're just gonna power farm up, get some items under their belt. What do you expect to see them do in this game?
That's the thing. I think full clearing now is so important because the camp respawn timers are 2 minutes, and farming towards your mythic items is so important, or even these base items, things like the Iron Spike Whip. These kind of items are so important to get to, straight to Dirks, all these things. So full clearing is really important because it's basically secured gold, and by the time you finish your full clear at around 4 minutes to 4 minutes 20, you can. That's when the respawns come in. 4 minutes to 4 minutes 20, your next camps respawn. That's why we see Lillia starting on the Raptors. That's when the camp will probably respawn. You just want to keep farming them non-stop because by the time you finish a full clear in base, you're basically going back to your next camp already. So going for like these level 2 cheeses, yes, you could get a flash, maybe best case you get a kill, but the amount of time that you've lost to the enemy jungler who's farming his camps isn't really worth it. So I think we'll see both junglers here go for somewhat of a full clear. And just a small interesting thing, Lillia going Raptors to Krugs to get the double respawn faster. And it does make it so the red buff's easier because you see limit. Makes a lot of sense. Does get traded on a bit, has to use the Aftershock. I think that does favor Schalke a little bit more. And like we said, I think BrokenBlade is the win condition in this comp. He's really good against the TF.
Big trade.
Lots of trading going on the map. Just going back to my point, I think Jax is really good against TF because you can dodge the stun card. So getting a gank setup on the Jax is really hard. And I think you can see Schalke's 1-3-1 comp with the Jax, with the Lucian on sides. It's going to need to get some resource on those champions to make sure that you can fully utilize that composition.
Absolutely something that's important to consider. And I think, obviously, 2 very solid starts in terms of individual lanes for Schalke No Fear. That trade in the mid lane, very good. Of course, important to remember that there is no TP for Abbedagge, so Nisqy will get the free race set. He has the Corrupting Potion as well, so not the end of the world that he lost out big on that level 2 trade, but certainly not ideal. Meanwhile, what we saw in the bottom lane, tough to know exactly what to expect 100% from this lane matchup, but the difference between Phase Rush and Aftershock does mean that while Hylissang can get out a little bit easier, when Galio goes in, he is going to be much tankier at this point in the game.
And I think small thing to note, Abbedagge did force Nisqy's TP back to lane at 3 minutes in the game. He still has a potion, he still has a cookie as well, and he's full HP in mana, so that's a huge thing for the Lucian, being able to force TF's TP so early into the game.
And additionally, in a situation right now where Vision is spotting out Selfmade too, so there's really no way for them to punish the fact that Lucian is so far pushed forward right now, kind of keeping TF locked into the tower, and Nisqy not comfortable enough to set up a freeze because Lucian just walks up and starts hitting him if he tries to do it.
Yeah, and look at the clear speed difference, you know, Gilius just about to finish the crab, and Selfmade didn't even kill the Krugs in his clear. So Gilius has got a somewhat of a camp advantage here. Looks like he might drop a ward here on the respawn Raptors and just go to base, which is really good information. You saw Selfmade on the top side with your early wards. Now we'll use our jungler's wards on his respawn camps to get his information. You look at the bot side wards for Schalke, you know, they've got the crab triple ward across the bot side jungle. So after these Krugs, I would expect Selfmade to get spotted out. So these Schalke lanes can keep playing aggressive. You know, when you see the jungle bot side, you can always just dash in whenever you want on the other side of the map.
Yeah, absolutely can. And I think that's important to note too, because when we look at BrokenBlade as a player so far this season, it's, you know, it's been an interesting story. And while obviously he's doing very well in this individual matchup right now, we haven't, I think it's been kind of a quiet start for BrokenBlade. Obviously lowest in jungle proximity. This guy hasn't been getting a lot of attention. He's been living on his island. But now that he's got a Jax game, maybe this is finally where we get to see BrokenBlade flex a little bit on the LEC stage.
Yeah, it's just an interesting stat, really. It's only 2 games, really, but I think the fact that BrokenBlade as a player is a high-resource carry top laner, we know that. We've seen that over in TSM, so it's interesting that the jungle proximity is so low for him. But now that he's playing the Jax, Gilius did full clear top to bot, so I expect him after these Raptors to be able to somewhat impact that lane. As we see that walls from Gilius, paying its stats there, shows Selfmade on the map.
Yeah, thanks for the highlight and follow-up there, observers. Well done. And Gilius, as you said, starting to pull off to a nice little start here. Additionally, the early Seekers, you know, obviously going to delay the Mythic item spike early on, but Leandri's just adding more burn damage anyway, so good to have the extra armor. Will help a healthy clear, and Upset is just going to dash out to safety. Important to note, too, that especially as we get closer to level 6, there is setup CC in every lane for every single member of both teams except for Abbedagge in the mid lane. So really, while it is a very calm game state right now, the Jax Counter-Strike, the Ornn Horn, the Hylissang being willing to flash in and go for that face breaker, this can change very, very quickly.
Yeah, and small thing to note, Bwipo got BrokenBlade to base earlier, so Bwipo has somewhat of a small advantage in the top lane in terms of XP. BrokenBlade lost a few creeps to the tower there. And you can see Schalke's bot lane base together and they're pinging towards the bot side, so I'd expect him, Gilius and Limit to come together, try to get some wards into the bot side jungle and try and get an early Drake with this bot power that they're having, because Fnatic are going to have the base. They're a bit down in tempo on bot side, because Hylissang did base earlier than Upset. Upset still needs to go back to base, so there is a window for Dragon. There's no TPs on the top side. But the Destiny just got available on the map. Nisqy just hits level 6, so could be a bit risky without any information on where Selfmade is as well.
Spotting out at least a little bit of info here is Hylissang. I won't say too aggressively checks here. He's feeling pretty confident that he can make it out of this one. He still has the flash up and available, but trying to keep information up as long as possible just to see if they do start the Dragon. Instead, it'll just be the Scuttle Crab and these small incremental advantages slowly stacking up in favor of Gilius. He has now ticked over to level 6. It's going to be a small window before Selfmade gets there, but this is where Lillia really starts to come into her own, having access to that drowsy, to that sleep. Makes a lot of gank setups so much easier.
Yeah, and I think Schalke's mid jungle is really strong at this point in the game. Level 6 on the Lillia, level 6 on the Lucian. There's so much burst potential there, but Fnatic have the tools to use the global of the TF. It's a bit hard to go up to the top side, but bot lane is probably where they're looking, unless they can get the Jaxi out and go for the all-in.
Now the knockup, Bwipo continuing to extend here, empowered auto, Nisqy on the way in, already burned the counter-strike, can't block that. First blood coming through, BrokenBlade over-aggressive there on extending that trade.
Yeah, way too aggressive, and it looks like Fnatic's going to do the Drake as well, so they're going to win out on top side, they're going to win out on bot side as well, so that's a huge play for the side of Fnatic. All Gilius can really do is just look to clear his top camps.
And I gotta say, Caedrel, I like the Ornn pickup here, I like the use of the TF2, because I think Fnatic have successfully identified the winning formula in week 1, which is kind of just KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Like you get the semi-globals, you get a big beefy tank that can kick off fights for you, because we've seen so many teams, whether they were top tier last season or bottom tier, struggle to execute, struggle to close out games cleanly, struggle to snowball leads without getting pulled into these big, long, scrappy games. And Fnatic now have the tools to do so. Yes, they could also accelerate a lead, but if worse comes to worse and we're in another 35-minute, both teams have 3 dragons apiece kind of scenario, Fnatic have all the tools to win out in these fights.
Yeah, definitely. I think they've drafted a comp here, which is a lot more easy to execute. You know, you've got the 1-4 comp with TF over side, you've got the engage with Ornn, and you've got the hyper carry AD, which scales really well into the late game. So what more do you want to ask for there? And BrokenBlade getting taken down does mean that Bwipo is a little bit ahead in XP, and you can see the lanes have kind of swapped there because Abbedagge stayed top to catch the waves, which meant BrokenBlade went towards mid. And the whole reason that BrokenBlade died there is because he went aggressive with the E, right? He had no E for the dodge on the TF stun, so TF ulted top instantly, and that's just an overextension from BrokenBlade there. Not being too aware of where TF was when he went to the aggressive trade with the E, but Fnatic are going to start up this Herald. Neon's moving his way up from the bot side river, and it looks like it could turn into a 5v5, but Upset needs to catch the wave. So the longer this fight goes on, the better it is for Schalke.
No Destiny for the TF. Important to note, but that's going to be one sleepy. Bwipo is unstoppable for now. He's going to flash out to safety. Taunt now down for Limit. He is only level 5, but Hylissang is now in trouble. Ooh. Big face breaker there. Big shield going to keep him alive. Neon looking for an opportunity to come in. There's the culling. Nisqy more than happy to body block. Both sides sort of backing off here.
So Schalke's going to lose a bot wave now. Neon did rotate into the mid. And there's no TPs to catch this bot wave, so if they don't start the Herald, all they're going to lose is just a wave of XP and gold for a flash on the side of Hylissang. So not bad overall. Neon should get in here in time to catch a couple of the creeps. But you can see both teams what they want to do on the map. They want to go for this Herald. Herald snowballs the game so quick, so much gold from the platings, especially when you've got champions like Jax and Lucian in the game. You really want to get gold in them. But Selfmade notices that Schalke had to go back bot side. Limit had the base because he was low on HP, and he's just going to take away this Herald. Basically detected on wards, they know he's doing this most likely. but he knows that Schalke is really can't contest it. They're completely out of tempo.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the big differences that we look at there is that obviously Hylissang as a support at before level 6, still very strong, still very tanky because of just the ludicrous power that is Sett W, whereas Limit, you know, if he has that Galio ult, maybe they can play more aggressive there, but when he burns the taunt already before a fight even kicks off, they have really no way to do much of anything else. They do not have all of the easy, instantaneous, hard engage options that I think would make this game a lot easier to play. Something like what we saw from you know, Misfits in the previous game, where they had the Camille, they had the ability to kick a fight off instantaneously. They might get that with BrokenBlade as we move in later into the game with the Counter-Strike, but for now, they kind of... It's not super easy, I think, to pull off any big plays.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes in. Schalke's mid-jungle base together, so maybe they can impact the map a little bit here, but they're looking on Nisqy, who has no flash. Limit doesn't have the flash either, but they have the Kai'Sa ultimate if they want to go for this.
It's going to connect, trying to find the follow-up. Nisqy will just walk away.
Yeah, just going back to my point, I think this game just looks a lot cleaner from Fnatic, right? They're around 1,500 gold up. They managed to get the Dragon, they got the Herald, and they got the first blood on the counterplay when BrokenBlade went too aggressive on top side. So this is a much more stable early game for Fnatic. They have the tools they need to start progressing this game slowly. They've got the Herald, they've got the TP on the side of Bwipo, they've got the Destiny on Nisqy. They just need to play towards the spot side, try to fight around Dragon when it does spawn in 1 minute 20, and try to get some more gold onto Upset or on Selfmade.
And I think it's good that you call that out, because the story of Fnatic's 2021 so far has been one of chaos. I'll hold that thought, though. We've got a bit of a play going on here. They will back off, though, but you can see big gold deficits, massive gold deficits, game-losing gold deficits for Fnatic. And similarly, lots of deaths and a very high combined kills per minute, which basically just means Fnatic were fighting themselves to death over and over again in the previous games that we saw. And you know, it's not always bad to take a fight, but Fnatic just kept taking fights where they were not winning out in gold, they were not winning out in objectives, and as a result, they were losing very quickly. So I like what you said about a slower Fnatic kind of being a good thing to say.
Yeah, and looks like Selfmade's poising here to help Nisqy get the push. He's probably going to bring Nisqy with him towards bot side to get the scuttle, try and deny some bot waves, get some vision, maybe even look to start the Drake up. And the whole reason that Selfmade does that is so Nisqy can push the wave uncontested. Yes, they do share a little bit of XP, but it means that they can move together at the same time. So when they get down to this bot lane, it's really hard for Schalke to contest. And if they did manage to get that ward away in River, they wouldn't really know what Fnatic's up to.
No. And interesting, too, as we just check in on the jungle matchup again, obviously Selfmade now pulling a little bit ahead in terms of overall XP, in terms of overall creep score as well, which is good to see. Interesting that Gilius has immediately opted for the Zhonya's. Obviously, a lot of AD on this team, all things considered, but not having any Boots of Lucidity, not building towards any piece of Liandry's or any other mythic item quite yet, probably does cost him a decent amount in terms of overall clear speed, as Fnatic right now are just grabbing this Drake uncontested and on vision.
Yeah, if you look what Selfmade did there, if anyone's trying to become a pressure jungle or anything, just look at what Selfmade did there. He went mid, got Nisqy the push, went towards bot side, made sure they had the river fully controlled, then on the next wave he heralded bot, made it so it crashed into the tower, and then brought his bot lane to the Dragon. So you can see Selfmade kind of holding hands with Nisqy, then holding hands with his bot lane, making sure he controls the whole bot side river. Look at the pink wards in the bot side river. Limit is going to come and clear these out, but they managed to get the Dragon. They got the plates on bot tower, so slowly creeping the advantage ahead without actually having to use any spells at all, just using good macro, good knowledge about the game, and playing really well so far, I think.
Not forcing any bigger fights, not forcing any bigger exchanges. And for Schalke, who had the Lucian mid lane, who were able to slow Nisqy down to a certain degree, but not able to stop him from going top and finding that kill early on in the game. This has not been the early game that they wanted it to be. You know, Gilius' early jungle lead has really amounted to nothing. Maybe that starts to change here, but a difficult start for Schalke.
Yeah, and look at this. Hylissang and Selfmade playing together. Selfmade's always playing with someone. He's playing with Nisqy, he's playing with the bot lane, he's playing with his support, whereas Gilius and Limit seem off sync. Gilius on his Krugs, Limit's trying to contest bot side vision, and this is what happens.
Pull back, suppress, Limit now running for the hills. Aftershock still procs. It's got a few more moments. Big haymaker. The follow-up is going to connect. My God, perfectly aimed there from Selfmade. Just barely getting it to pop on the end.
And now this affects Neon. Neon loses his tower. He can't really catch the wave. This is how the map slowly falls apart when you're not contesting vision as 2 or as 3. Gilius isn't playing too much through mid or with his support too much, whereas Selfmade's using the objectives he has, using the players, the tools that he has, the pushing lanes to make sure that they can secure vision. And if anyone tries to overstep, like Limit did there, they go for the punish. And you can see Schalke move into the top side. They know that all of Fnatic has the vision bot side, try and take away some of these camps, like Selfmade is doing to the bot side.
And I gotta say, Caedrel, this is a completely different Fnatic. We've seen it statistically, we're now seeing it in the gold lead that they built. This kind of gold lead was the same deficit that they'd been putting themselves in the 2 previous games that they played. So for it to now work at Neon.
Just gonna keep canceling him.
Reminder that isolated Kai'Sa Q, when evolved, is a very, very strong skill, even if not quite enough to one-shot there.
You can see Nisqy trying to poise towards the top side, trying to defend what Schalke has to throw at the top lane tower, but I think Bwipo wants to back off. Didn't really want to try to fight the 2v3, 2v4 that Schalke could go for there. And yeah, like you said, just clean play from Fnatic overall. I think that you can see Selfmade just really playing so well around the pushing lanes that he has. And they did manage to get every objective in the game so far. So not playing too much into the Jax, trying to shut him down, rather than instead just trying to get his team ahead to make sure that when it comes to the mid game, if the Jax is split pushing, we can just engage mid, use our fed Samira, use our fed Graves, to try and just push in waves and start fights whenever we want.
Okay, I'm just so surprised to see a turnaround across 3 days, across 3 now single games, to see such a shift from Fnatic. Although for Nisqy, he's going to be in trouble.
Close.
50 more range on that Culling, and Abbedagge might have been able to finish the job, but wasn't quite able to do it.
And the jungle matchup you were talking about earlier is getting worse and worse for the side of Schalke. Selfmade sitting around 20 CS above, is a level up, has finished that Gale Force, so he is really, really strong on his Graves, and that's just comes down to the platings that he managed to get, and just being able to power farm most of this game.
And additionally as well, the incremental advantages he has been building for the rest of his teams are starting to pay off for him as he's able to push deeper and deeper into the enemy jungle. You see Hylissang now setting up that vision, so fewer and fewer camps are easy picking for Gilius. He can't just sit and power farm anymore. And for Neon, he might just be in trouble. The pullback is just going to dunk him down. The immediate gold card follow-up, all too easy. Cleanse not going to work out for Neon, trying to dash to safety, but here comes Upset, not even going to need to use the ultimate. Doesn't even have enough style points to do it, but it's not going to matter. He's going to grab the kill.
Yep, good play there from the side of Fnatic. Nisqy identifying that Neon was a little bit too far up and Hylissang was on the way. So good punish. I like the flash engage from the side of Hylissang, just making sure they get that done. I'm surprised Nisqy went for the gold card. I mean, Neon did have the cleanse. I think something like a red card or a blue card for more damage. Could have been fine there. That's one of the only cases where a blue or red card could have been fine.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I mean, it works out. An overall very clean play. And we're very quickly approaching that Samira Nightmare threshold. She already has the Immortal Shield bow, but once she gets the Collector too, this is going to be a very difficult champion to shut down in fights. And at this stage, I don't even think Schalke really want to be forcing larger scale fights against the lineup of Fnatic. They need BrokenBlade to get a few more items under his belt. He's finished the Blade of the Rune King, but already we see the Bramble Vest and the Sunfire on the opposite side.
That's the thing, Drakos. Schalke's comp really doesn't want to team fight that much. They just want to go 1-3-1 and just use their priority side lanes to actually do something towards mid. You saw BrokenBlade took the top tower, now he's taking the bot tower, so that's the only thing that's going on for Schalke this game, really. 2 towers taken down, it's all on the side of BrokenBlade. And yeah, grouping up's going to be really difficult for them. I think Bwipo is building items to make sure that he can just stand in front of BrokenBlade's face and clear the wave. He's not looking for the 1v1 too much. I think he knows his job is just to group up around these dragons and start fights. And that's why you see 1-3-1 comps are just difficult to pull off in general, because if you don't get ahead and the enemy team does manage to get dragons, eventually you're forced to fight them. And if you're playing a non-team fight comp and you're forced to fight Drake, the game kind of falls apart.
Yeah, fantastic point. And it's even harder when you're already falling behind in this game. You know, in order to really successfully pull off that 1-3-1, you need a winning side lane. And yeah, okay, Jax beats Ornn, sure, but if the Ornn starts getting, 2K, 3K ahead, it's a very different story. So now Fnatic get their 3rd Drake. This one could be contested by Schalke. They're just going to give it up. Schalke don't even want to take this fight, but they will have to fight for the next one.
Exactly, and you can see Selfmade did the exact same thing as he did with the first Herald. Herald mid, pushing the wave. Schalke has to respond to the Herald, start the Drake. Schalke has no chance to contest that. What does Schalke do? Let's go topside again, see if we can get something. BrokenBlade's up there. Maybe they can get this tower. Maybe they can try to dive someone, whoever catches the wave. But it's going to be Bwipo. It's going to be a really tanky Ornn, so it's going to be really difficult for Schalke to get anything on the return. So Fnatic has to back off this mid wave. They know everyone's topside. You can see them hovering towards the bot side of the map. And like you said, Drakos, the 4th dragon, you're going to have to fight it eventually. And that's in 4 minutes, 30 seconds.
Knocked there, BrokenBlade is just going to walk away, limit on the way forward. But as you said, Bwipo too tanky, not a lot BrokenBlade can do here. Still very squishy at this stage of the game. And Caedrel, I feel like we're very Fnatic focused, and after the 2 days of disappointing performances, it is good to see them play so well. But I want to talk a little bit about the other side for Schalke, because so far, it's felt very doom and gloom, partially because we're kind of just waiting for them to farm up for their composition to be relevant. But is there actually any other way for them to play the game right now, to find a way back in, to get some advantage over Fnatic?
I mean, the way they've drafted, they need to start pushing these solo layers ahead. The solo layers are a little bit ahead, 20 CS lead on both of them, but it's just not enough so far because the global gold and the neutral objective Fnatic's been picking up here. I think Gilius just keep
forward.
Zhonya's.
They're going to get Galio as well as the Zhonya's. And Gilius still looks like he's going to drop again. Selfmade from downtown finding that one. Big fat haymaker coming in from Hylissang. Won't be enough to save his life, but that's the 1-for-1 priority access to the mid lane. And now it looks like tier 1 tower as well.
This is how they need to play the game. Look at bot. Abbedagge needs to start pushing in these waves, hitting the tier 2, trying to get some towers on the side lanes, but looks like he's just going to decide to base because I think he's scared of Fnatic being able to TP behind him. Bwipo runs around with the ultimate up. So that fight does end up in a 1-for-1. I thought Gilius was pretty much doomed there when I saw the TF ult come out and he was stuck on the red buff, but Nisqy went a bit too far upwards and Abbedagge is looking for 1v1 on Nisqy here. He's a level down.
Goldcard comes out, immediate cleanse, well played for now. Does get the dash forward, second dash now comes out as well. Second gold card comes in from Nisqy, creeps. Very friendly body block there coming through in the end. Abbedagge, you have to wonder if one of those dashes or that Gale Force could have been aimed a little bit better, but at the end of the day, Nisqy is going to be able to walk away.
Pretty clean by Abbedagge. The mechanics there were really on point. Did almost take down Nisqy, and saw Nisqy was kind of poising aggressively. Abbedagge knew that other members were coming down because there's no way Nisqy would walk up with 10% HP. But going back to your point, I think they need to start putting more vision around their side laners, right? Get BrokenBlade bot side, he has TP, so he can respond to any Baron starts. Maybe Abbedagge can try to shadow him bot side, so they're 2-man. They can try and dive Bwipo or try and get a Galio ult down there, so they're 3-man trying to kill Nisqy or Bwipo on the tower, and then start pushing his 3 onto the tier 2. And then if they do decide to go Baron on the side of Fnatic, then BrokenBlade can TP up there and start to contest it. They need to try and be creative. That's the whole problem with their comp. Their comp's really hard to execute in the mid to late game, whereas Fnatic's is a lot easier. You know, they've got so much teamfight tools, globals, and they're scaling super well.
It is certainly a difficult climb back to even gold in this game for Schalke 04. And it's only going to get harder too because Ornn now level 13 is going to start upgrading these items as well. So even if Jax feels very confident in that side lane, Ornn is now going to just start dishing out thousands of gold worth of value to each and every member of his team the longer this game goes.
Yeah, and you can see 1 minute 50 seconds on the Drake. Schalke trying to contest some mid wave so they can keep control of this bot side river. But Fnatic don't seem to care. I mean, it's still 1 minute 40 seconds till the Dragon. They don't really have to walk in anytime soon. And you can see the jungle difference. I mean, there's a bit of a 2-level gap on the jungle. 40 CS lead. Selfmade is super strong right now. So if it comes to Dragon fight, I think it's so hard for Schalke because they've got so many people they have to shut down. They have to shut down Upset, they have to shut down Selfmade, there's engage from Bwipo. They actually have to kill Bwipo first. This engage comes in onto Abbedagge. He has no cleanse.
Very good. Blast Cone though going to take him out of safety. Flash over the wall. Now he's sleepy. Lucian ult. He's going to knock Nisqy out of it. Selfmade now retreating as we see a fight on the top side of the map. BrokenBlade trying to all in Bwipo. Maybe he can get the 1v1, but that's the knockup now coming in. Bwipo going to dash to the safety, but he blocked by his own. No, the leap into the tower. Are you kidding me? Gold TFT, baby. Bwipo finding that in the end. I cannot believe it.
Selfmade.
Fight balanced on the knife's edge, but now another one kicking off the mid lane. Gilius running through the hills.
He's going to use the ult.
Time.
Oh, he mistimed it. Oh, he stands still. He knew he mistimed it.
There you go. Now Hylissang back on the way, and he's also going to go. All right, well, as much as we praise Fnatic for not throwing anything away, they're getting a little bit ahead of himself. That's going to be the 3-man taunt. Good from Limit, but he has no follow-up here. Abbedagge stepping forward. Gold card going to finish the job. Upset looking in. He's one off. That's the S-style rank. Spin, spin, spin.
Oh,
Inferno trigger.
My name is Samira. I'm balanced.
Triple kill for Upset. That was looking good for Schalke for a second there, and then, yeah, they got Samira.
Yep, looks like they're going to go turn towards the Baron here, Drakos. That fight was so messy. We had a fight top, we had a fight on bot side. And yeah, Fnatic's going to turn towards the Baron. Gilius is alive. BrokenBlade has the TP, but you can't contest this in a 2v4. Hylissang's on the way as well, so that's 5. But Dragon spawning in 10 seconds, so maybe Schalke can somewhat run towards the bot side while they're on this Baron and try and get some control around it and deny this Ocean Soul point.
Yeah, it's a tough situation though. Most certainly, Caedrel.
They're TPing in though. Nisqy wants to contest this Dragon. They're 2v3, but Upset is moving through mid. He is sitting on all of gold, so this fight could be somewhat even, but I think that Fnatic, Nisqy coming out of base, Hylissang getting a good position. I don't think they can take away the Dragon, but they can take the fight. Important
they have not backed it. Can they steal it? No, Gilius just barely able to grab that one away. Now running for the hills is going to throw it out. They're going to be a little bit slower, but here comes Bwipo from downtown. Call the Forge God, going to knock up 2. Hylissang fishing for the follow-up. Walking forward, the entire team here. Fnatic, an absolute death ball. Upset, S-rank ready to go. He can ult at any moment, but they're going to back off for now. Bwipo body blocking as Fnatic retreat. Ocean Soul will be spared.
Yeah, so Schalke got the best out of the worst situation possible, right? They lost the Baron, but they managed to get the Dragon. Yes, they lost Limit on the back of it, but they bought 5 minutes, right? And in this comp, even though BrokenBlade died 1v1, he will eventually win, Drakos, I'm telling you.
Caedrel, I respect the optimism, but it's like, hey guys, I got mugged, but at least they left my bus pass, you know? I can get home.
Yeah, looking at this replay, this is, I think, later on in the fight, after the fight on the bot side of the blue, and I think Selfmade here, he knows he mistimes the ult by about maybe 0.2 seconds, and he just stands still, takes his hands off the keyboard, says, oh my god, I can't believe it. And then Schalke look for the re-engage. Neon has the ult to go for it. Good stopwatch from Nisqy, and the engage from Limit was good, but the thing is, there's double cleanse on the side of Fnatic. And then Upset just goes in, gets the triple kill. Infinite dashes.
Hey, then the S. Reset on the
Dashes through the creep with the ult still up. It was pretty clean.
It's very clean mechanics.
Dashes
The
back
back
out.
step to dash through was clean.
Yeah.
The little things.
Upset playing really, really well this game. 5-0-0 on the Samira.
And of course, items now upgraded. Super Gale Force and Super Immortal Shield Bow. They have actual names, but they're not important.
Now Schalke's, this is the worst part. The worst part of the game for a 1-3-1 comp. When the enemy team has Baron and you're the one standing on your towers, because 1-3-1 comps tend to have really, really little wave clear, and you can see that on the champions, right? Lucian, Jax, Lillia. There's really not much wave clear here. Only the Kai'Sa Q is the only thing you've got. So Fnatic are able to step up and start chunking the towers, but the ult comes out from Gilius.
Back off. Only managing to sleep one. Ooh, and very difficult. The sad news is, if they were a little bit closer in this game, Fnatic don't necessarily have the best sieging potential. They have 2 short-range AD threats on this team, but Nisqy alone, with that gold card and the massive gold lead that Fnatic have built for themselves, are putting them in a position to just run through Schalke's base. Schalke not comfortable to force a fight on their own terms, on their own territory. And Fnatic now going in, looking to get things kicked off. Eyes on Upset as he fishes for the reset. BrokenBlade, that's disastrous because the Counter-Strike is now down, and that is free reign for Fnatic to run through this fight. That's available for Upset. He's going to start to spin. He's going to look for one. He can double rush through for another, but he's not going to go for the follow-up. Playing it nice and slow. BrokenBlade blocking the gold card. Fnatic backing off. Discipline like we have not seen yet this season from this Fnatic lineup to pull away, to not risk anything.
Yeah, so much discipline from Fnatic there. They thought they could go for the 5v5, but I think the Galio ult bought way too much time. Hylissang went way too deep. But it does have an imp for a 1-for-1. They get the objectives and they get out. So 2 inhibs down. Now there's only 1 left for the side of Fnatic. The Baron buff has run out, so do they want to go towards the top side and start fighting for the tier 3s? Or do they want to wait for the Dragon to respawn? And you can see in the replay here, Neon was just split from his team. And I think you see Hylissang go way too deep here, right? He pops the ult, he backflips BrokenBlade, but he's in the middle of 4 people, and it's classic Hylissang deep in the fight. But it doesn't end up too bad for Fnatic. They get the objective and they get out.
Definitely could have been a gigantic disaster for Schalke. Obviously losing 2 inhibitors. They're also at a 10k gold deficit. You're 2 minutes away from Drake, and Nisqy teleporting in to most likely one-shot Gilius here. Gilius going to run for the hills, though. Protobelt giving him that extra move speed. Oh,
I think he's...
Oh, there it is.
He timed it right this time.
This time he got it.
Now he's standing still saying he's got it this time.
Give him the little heart. All right, so I think that's 3 for 4 for Selfmade, which is a C, but we'll take those on the
we
ult kills.
We take those. And Fnatic, even though the Dragon's spawning in 1 minute, they're ignoring BrokenBlade. They know that the only objective here is this top tower. So they're going to try and engage on it, try and force them back from the tower to make sure they get this objective.
Fishing, but going wide is going to find a single knockup, interrupted by Limit now as the entire team retreats. But oh no, the stun card lands, Upset immediately there for the follow-up. BrokenBlade going to try to fish through with the double rush back, now looking for the S tier, now the spin, and that's it. Upset moving through as Selfmade finishes the job, and Fnatic, this should just be the slow, clean closeout here. A nice turn to the end of their first week as they're looking to finish it out in style. The dunk back, the massive haymaker across the team. That's going to be 3-member sleep though. There's no follow-up.
There's no follow-up.
Nisqy didn't get slept, he still has the gold card. They can't do anything to walk forward, and that means Fnatic, Schalke are just gonna have to watch as their base is torn to pieces. Fnatic and Schalke both gonna finish the week at 1-2, but Fnatic will find a win in week 1.
Yeah, really clean game from Fnatic. I think there was only a couple mistakes here and there, but really good drafts, really good execution. I think Fnatic, I won't say they're back, but I think this game shows that there is potential and they're looking really good.
And certainly refreshing to see a pace of play which is not full steam ahead, run into every fight, no questions asked. A nice adjustment from Fnatic on day 3.
And I think huge props to the carries, right? Upset had a fantastic game. He was popping off in fights, he did his job, and Nisqy was ulting around the map exactly when he needed to. Even got solo picks, so you can see the confidence coming from the carries, even though they were down 0-2.
Yeah, it was overall a really solid look for the team, and I think for Schalke No Fear, and pretty much for every team, I think when we look at it, it's been kind of a grab bag of different games and different play styles. We saw the Seraphine MF yesterday, which looked really good at first, which on paper seemed really good, that kind of fell apart as we moved later in the game. And we'll just have to see how these teams adjust for week 2. It's hard to know where to rank these teams, but today is Fnatic's day. Kia player of the game at LEC on Twitter, Selfmade, Nisqy, and Upset. And as Caedrel mentioned, fantastic performances across the board, but I have a sneaking suspicion who you would vote for here, Caedrel.
I would vote for Upset. Were you thinking Selfmade?
It's Selfmade. You literally, all you said all game was like, did you see how Selfmade set up the lane?
Yeah, Selfmade played really well.
Did you see how Selfmade did this?
You got to vote for the flashy player. Upset made a triple kill happen and it looks really clean. Got to go for the flashy.
Here's my opinion. You can vote for Upset, but also there is a vote for banning Samira and solo queue. Just my opinion. We're going to have one more game left in our Super Week as Excel and G2 Esports hit the Rift.
They are out there, waiting to be discovered. Some of them are big, and some of them are small. But that's the thing with ideas. They don't just come to you. To find them, you have to move. Kia, movement that inspires.
Welcome back to LEC 2021 Spring. Fnatic save their week 1, and I have Nisqy with me to talk about this fantastic victory. Thank you for joining me, Nisqy.
Thank you for the invitation
You hear
to
me?
this interview.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yes, I do.
How do you feel right now after this one victory that you've been waiting for?
I mean, it feels good to win because we went 0-2, and I feel like it always feels bad to start by losing games, but I was never worried, you know, because I know we're good. We just have to click as a team, and then we will get there, you know. So for me, it was just a matter of time, and I think this win proves to people that if we are all on the same page, then we're going to be really strong as a team.
I agree, and we could see that during this game, but let's rewind a bit and talk about the first 2 games, because looking at Fnatic, you were taking some hasty fights, if I may say, and from the outside it looks like communications issues between the team. Am I right to point out communication here, or is that something else also?
I mean, I think it's a bit of both. I think in our 2 losses, we made a lot of solo plays, not necessarily plays that were calculated, compared to today where we planned everything, everyone knew what was going on into the game, and everyone was contributing to what was going on as well. And also, yeah, sometimes we talk, like everyone talks a lot, and today I felt like everyone was way more calm, which helped a lot as well. So I'd say it's a bit of both, but for me, it's mostly all being on the same page and doing the same thing together.
Yeah, you mentioned everyone talking, and I mean, you can see it with this Fnatic, a lot of strong personalities and voices with experienced players. And when you look at a team like that, to me, it seems difficult for someone to find a stronger voice or just for people to find their place within the team. So right now, with the Fnatic we're seeing, who is in charge, who's leading, and who has to follow the calls?
I mean, right now we don't necessarily have someone leading. It just depends on what champion we play and who's strong into the game. But I'd say Oscar usually leads. I mean, Selfmade leads the early game usually, and Hilly. And then if we make plays, then it's all the team. And then if someone gets fed, then he takes over the game. Basically, it's like that, yeah.
All right, so standard communication here. But talking about you, Nisqy, you've been playing a lot of roaming champions, the likes of Galio, TF just this game. Tell me a bit more about your playstyle and your role within the team with this champion right now.
I mean, for now, I'm not sure necessarily what is the best. I'm still trying to find what fits us really well and what fits me as well in this meta. But I mean, of course, TF is like one of my comfort picks. Like I played it a lot before, so it felt kind of natural for me to play it. But yeah, of course, like for other picks, we still need time. I had to get used to it. But yeah, roaming champs are usually what I excel at. And yeah, we'll see if we can make them work, you know?
I'm still waiting to see your Zoe. I know you have an incredible Zoe, and you were fantastic in NA with the champion. So hopefully you can play the champion next week. But we didn't see you in Europe for 2 years, 3 years actually, since you stayed with Cloud9. How much did you change as a player and a human actually since then?
I mean, for me, I changed a lot just because I feel like I have matured a lot. Back when I was in Splice, I was more like technically a rookie back then. Right now, I feel like I'm kind of on the veteran side, and I know way more about the game. I know how to kind of be a good teammate, help the people around me, just be a good guy, just in general. And also my team game and my communication is just way better than it was before. So yeah, for me, I just think I have way more experience and I have grown a lot in kind of everything, you know. Also, I think I found my playstyle, and I'm trying to see if it works in Europe as well, because it worked in NA, I'd say, and I will try to adapt it for Europe right now.
Yeah, you grabbed a lot of experience overseas, and coming back to Europe, do you think the competition changed, especially on the mid lane?
Yeah, definitely. I think in Europe, the mid laners are way more punishing than in NA, where, for example, I don't know, in NA you can kind of get away with a lot of picks, but in EU I usually don't take too many risks, like blind picking champions that are punishable. I know that EU mid laners can punish it, right? But for example, in NA they wouldn't. So yeah, it's way more, it's not that easy to draft. I'd say, at least it's like harder compared to NA. And then also I think just the mid laners in EU are just better in general, mechanically, and also, yeah, just champion pool wise.
Well, hopefully you can find your place, and looking forward to seeing more from Fnatic. Nisqy, thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a break, and we'll come back for the last game of the week, G2 versus XL. Stay tuned.